Okay. Hey, everybody. If you're joining us right now, I'm sorry I was a little bit late. Hey, Zbyshek is back. Okay. For some reason, Zbyshek, you were going off and on with your picture.
Yeah.
So I don't know what was happening there. But so we're just ironing out a few. I'm live now, by the way, Zbyshek. So, oh, you went away again. But I'm live right now and just treading a little bit water here because we are trying to resolve a couple of technical issues. I use this Be Live Studio software, and we're both kind of finished. We had a great experience with it last time with the PowerPoint, but we're trying a video this time, and it looked to me like it was working just great, but Zbyshek was not seeing things on his end. So Zbyshek, I'm going to bring you on. Okay, I'm bringing Zbyshek on, and here he is, Zbyshek.
Hello.
Hey, Zbyshek, we're live now, just so you know. And I was just explaining that we were trying to iron out some technical issues. So just Zbyshek and I are just going to check one thing here. So just if you're watching live, just be patient. By the way, Zbyshek, when I upload this, for people to look at via an archived copy, I will edit out all this stuff of us chatting at the beginning. Okay, so I'll do some editing.
Cool.
But anyway, what I'm going to do, Zbyshek, right now is I'm going to share the screen, and you may not hear me for a bit, but I will come on and ask you what you see. Okay, so I'm going to go to share screen, and I am going to choose what we're looking at there, which is the media player, and I'm going to ask you, do you see anything at this point?
Just you. You and myself.
Okay, let me turn us off. Can you hear me, Zbyshek? Okay, Zbyshek. Here we go. You can see and hear me now, right?
I see you and hear you, and I see myself.
I actually went online, and this is what the audience would be seeing right now. So they were just a minute ago. They were seeing they were actually seeing the video that I was going to show. So apparently,
it's my browser.
What's that?
So it must be my browser that doesn't show up.
Yeah, I don't know. So let's try to.
Give me a second. I will.
If you have a cell phone nearby, you could have your cell phone on, and you could be looking at the live broadcast if you go to my YouTube channel or Facebook.
Yeah, let me load again.
Okay.
Give me just
Yeah, that's fine. I'll just talk as you go. Okay. So if you're new to this interview process that I've been doing with Zbyshek and I met each other, oh boy, back in 1994. Back in 1994. Wow, that's what is that? 6 + 3. That's 29 years ago. I can't believe that. 29 years ago. Anyway, we were young pups, and I was overseas in the country of Kazakhstan in the former Soviet Union. And I was part of a group. We were trying to reach out to people who didn't know about Jesus yet. And mostly they were Kazakh people we were trying to reach out to. But, really anybody, Russians and other people who live there, Uyghurs, and there were a vast array of different people groups living in Kazakhstan. But we had a heart to, now that the Soviet Union was open, the former Soviet Union was open, we had a heart to share Christ with those people. And Zbyshek came in with some people. We also worked with some Norwegians and other people from around the world. But Zbyshek was a real plus because he already knew Russian. And let me sure he's back on. Okay.
He is
And
back.
yeah, I'm just giving an overview of how we met each other. So Zbyszek knew Russian, and so he could do Bible studies in Russian because being a Pole, they were forced. Isn't that correct? You were forced to learn Russian. So
We
he
were
knew
invited.
you were
We were
invited.
invited.
You were
No,
invited
but
into the Russian world, right?
we had the we had the privilege.
The
And
privilege, the high
yes,
privilege of learning Russian.
it's why you guys over there in the States are so lost, because you have not a chance to be access to have free access to the Soviet culture.
I know. It's
And
too bad. We do
today,
have Matryoshka dolls, though. By the way, I have an idea for a Christmas gift. I'm
okay.
conspiring with my grandchildren. We're going to get pictures of all our family members and my
Mhm,
in-laws, and we're going to make Matryoshka dolls out of each
mhm.
person, starting with the patriarchs. That would be me and
It's
the other
cool.
grandpa. And so we're going to be the
Oh,
biggest dolls, and then we're going to go all the way down to the tiniest baby, which is Courtney's going to have a baby in June. My daughter Courtney, and that's going to be the
uh-huh.
tiniest Matryoshka doll. What do you think? Think it's a good idea?
I think it's good. It's
I
great. But
think
you
it's
should
I
start
think it's
from
neat.
Lenin. You should start from Lenin. Don't forget the beginning.
Oh, when I traveled to Moscow for the first time in the summer of 1992, we went to the Arbat, which was a street where they sold all the souvenirs. And I
Yes,
remember all of these political Matryoshka dolls where they had
yes,
Lenin, then
yes.
Stalin, Khrushchev, all the way down to Gorbachev. Yeah, it was pretty funny. That was a tourist trap street, that's for sure. But
But
anyway, go ahead, Zbyszek.
no, I just want to say that 92, and it was still not very secure. 92. You probably still were followed, or they checked on who you are, and
Yeah,
being in Moscow.
they looked at us very suspiciously at the
Yeah,
airport,
yeah,
when you go by the guy with the green coat on.
yeah.
Yeah,
But it was
no.
the beginning, and after that was great time. I think next at least 5 years were great for the relationship between America and former Soviet, or
Yeah.
Russians. Maybe let's call them Russians. Also, as maybe introduction, I would say that the Russian society, for sure, propaganda and probably government, they are a little bit lost with the idea of Soviet and Russian. What is
Mm.
Soviet and what is Russian?
Mhm.
Because they are saying that the Russians conquered the Nazis during the Second World War. It's what they try to say, that it's who did that. It was us Russians.
You mean like single-handedly? We single-handedly
No, I mean they say
finished off the Russians.
Russians did that, not
Yeah.
Soviet Union, but the
Yes.
Russians
Right.
did it. Of
Right.
course, they are
Right.
not saying that Americans or the British or whoever, even Poles, helped. No, they don't say that, but they say the Russia.
Sure.
We
Yeah.
did win the Nazis, so now we also going to win the Nazis. That's the
Yeah.
idea.
Right. And they paint Ukraine as if it's filled with only Nazis, and yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But
Yeah.
then, in this next sentence, they are able to say that the Soviets, they gave up the Berlin in 1992.
Mm. So they
And
blame it on the Soviets.
yeah, the
That's
Soviets gave,
interesting.
yeah, you see.
It's like a
So
shell game, like a blaming shell game, sort of.
yeah, so you see,
Yeah.
so it's so the Russia lost Crimea after the Second World War. The Russia lost because it belonged to Russia, and they lost it for Ukraine. But the Soviets gave this to Ukraine, and now
Mm.
Russia wants it back.
Yeah, sure.
So they play these two words, these two terms, in a way they want to, they want to influence. So
It reminds me of the line from Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet where Romeo says, "A rose by any other name would smell so sweet." It's like just give it
okay,
another name. Uh,
yeah,
so I wanted just to mention, if you're new to, if you're watching or you will be watching later, that Zbyszek and I knew each other from Kazakhstan, and he did Bible studies. And since then, to make a long story short, because I've said this already in previous interviews, that he's been to Beslan Russia. And you know what I should do is someday I should put up a video which summarizes that takeover of the school, because
Yeah,
there's some pretty
you
good
should do
YouTube
that.
videos
Yeah,
on that.
yeah, there are a lot
Just
of
so
them.
people know, because some people have no idea. When I say Beslan, I have to give background on it.
Yeah, of course.
And even though like over 300 people were killed, and you said it was the worst mass murder in European history.
Yeah, the
I mean,
terrorist attack. Yeah, the
yeah. I
biggest
mean,
terrorist attack.
usually we know about the worst
Yeah.
possible things. Anyway, and then
I
you were
want to
now.
say, I will tell you, the Europeans know more about the September 11 than they know about BS1 in Europe.
I believe it. I believe
Yeah,
it.
you see,
Well, you
so
know what's sad,
it's easy.
Zbyshek, is a lot of Americans are losing even an understanding of
Mhm.
September 11th. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
and I was just, before you came back on, I realized we have known each other. So we first knew each other 29 years ago, because I arrived in
yeah,
1994. So that'd be 6 years would bring me to 2000, and then add 23 to that. So that's 29 years. Can you believe that?
yeah, it's
That's
shocking.
a long time. Boy, the time goes by. And the older you get, the faster it goes, it seems.
But you see,
Uh,
it's okay. So it's 30 years, and when we came 30 years ago, you and me, because I came in, I think, 94 or 93 even. But anyway,
yeah,
uh,
you were there. You were there
yeah,
when
I
the
was just like
Canals
a
were
year.
there.
I
Yeah.
just a year. But when we were coming there, all this part of the world, the Soviet part of the world, was open. I mean, we thought it's open and ready for a change. And they wanted to try, a new life with the West, the new life, the things that they couldn't see much behind the Iron Curtain, because everyone was happy. I mean, 90%, 80% people were happy to meet an American or somebody
Oh
from the
yeah,
West,
sure,
or
sure.
even us. They
Yeah.
were so, we could spend days and nights talking about, they were happy to talk to us if
Hmm.
they everyone wanted to learn English. You must remember that. I
Oh,
mean, everyone,
absolutely.
even
It was. Yeah.
grandmas wanted to,
Yeah.
babushka would like, because they wanted
Sure.
to talk.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was in a sense, when I remember, and I was very young then. I was 22 when I moved there. So I everyone was so happy to be a familiar, to learn, to be in touch with the West. And 30 years passed, and they hate it. I mean, it's shocking. What happened, over these
Yeah.
30 years? Somebody, I am saying that because I want to say that somebody put incredible hard work to go back before 1991 and
Uh-huh.
move this nation, at least the Russian Federation. I'm not talking about the other republics, but at least the Russian Federation moved back, twisted their arm and a brain to go back with even bigger hate towards the West and America
Hmm.
than they
Well,
were. Mhm.
on the one hand, I understand that, because you can appeal, now that you're not atheists, so to speak, you can appeal to that religious concern that, oh, look how far the West has
Mm,
fallen morally. I mean, I understand that when,
mhm,
some of the things Putin has said about his concerns about the decay of culture, most Americans would say, yes, we agree with you
mhm,
completely. We don't like that either. We,
mhm,
many Christians would say, we don't like that in our culture. We fight
mhm.
against it. That's why you saw the rise of Trump, and that's why you see every time there's a political season, a presidential political season, you see the debates about, do you want the
Mhm,
country to go downhill? Do you want them to
mhm.
take away our guns? Do you want
Yeah, different
all
issues.
the
Yeah.
gays and lesbians to be in complete control of you hear this all the time. So in some ways people understand Russia's fear, that they don't want, and that's okay. That's fine. I wouldn't wish it on any other country. I don't wish our
Mm,
social issues on people
mm,
at all. Do you want school shootings in your
mm.
countries? Do you want to deal with these wacko environmentalists who put spikes in trees and so they don't cut them down, and people who take their chainsaws, get
Mm,
injured and all this crazy stuff. And
mm,
Europe has stuff like that too. But on the other hand,
mm.
like you talked about,
You
Russia
see,
just
I hear the Russians also their voice, and very interesting. Of course, most of them now are very supportive to Putin politi- um, politics, international politics, and I mean, they think like he's the best ever leader of their country. And it's true, it's terrible. I mean, but it is. But there are some voices, and very interesting one voice on what you are saying is we. They say we want new territories. The Putin group, they want new territories, so they go to Ukraine and they take parts of it. And we even can go to Eastern Europe and take because it was our during the Soviet times, and now they use the word Soviet because it's good for them.
mhm.
So they want more
Right,
like the Soviets because Russia was not there before the Soviets, So they
right.
say we now the Soviets. But very interesting thing they said. Some other opposition Russians say, guys, we have so much territory, and we don't know how to manage it. And in our territory, there is so much of poverty that we should put so much work into it. Let's not take new because we can't manage what we have,
Yeah,
and it's
yeah,
big truth. You know,
yeah, yeah.
they have so much to work on that the idea of getting more doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Uh, Especially that they have no plan for their own territory.
Right.
So
There's a lot to say about my country that I'm not proud of, some of the things I mentioned. But I will
mhm,
say there was a moment in history where, yes, we dropped the atomic bomb on Japan and it ended World War II. But at one time, we were the only country with the ability to drop an atomic weapon just for a short amount of time. And what did we do with that power? Did we drop bombs on all the other countries?
mm,
No,
of
we didn't.
course,
In fact, we gave Japan back to them. Japan
mm,
got Japan back, and Japan had a healthy economy, and had all these car factories, and they're doing quite well, and we're
of
able
course.
to be friends with them again, even though they were a bitter enemy. Probably
Mm,
even I would say as much, if not more.
mhm,
Uh, the fear that people had on the West Coast of being invaded by Japan and,
mm,
having
yeah.
submarines pop up on the Pacific coast. I mean, it was palatable, and about internment camps where they sent Japanese citizens
Mm.
to camps inland.
The
So,
best way to win your enemy is to become his friend.
yes, absolutely. Yeah,
So
for sure.
it's what you do. You
Yeah.
try to. No, mhm, please.
I was going to say, it was interesting yesterday. I did the Civil War reenactment,
Mhm.
and I talked to a guy who who was with me, and he was riding next to me in the car, and he befriended a boy in Russia, in Moscow. I think it's a
Mm.
Jewish family. He
Mhm.
reached he reached out to this guy because
Mhm.
he was interested in the Civil War, our Civil War. He
Wow.
was Yeah, he's a Russian kid who was really interested in the Civil
Yeah,
War,
of
and he
course.
wants to do reenactments and dress up and all that kind of stuff. And apparently, there are people in Russia who do American Civil War reenactments, where they do fake battles and stuff. I
Yeah.
didn't know this. And his father, the boy's father, has a business where he makes miniature military
Mhm.
uh,
Mhm.
figurines and things, and he's able to support his family doing that. So anyway, this
Wow.
kid and my friend uh, have been communicating back and forth, and he's helping him with his English, and he's homeschooled, and he's getting information about the Civil War, but he's also practicing his conversational English.
Mhm.
So they decided to leave Russia,
Mhm.
and they're in Israel. I won't mention the city they're in, but they're in Israel right now. Okay,
Yeah, of
so
course.
they're
Mhm.
Jewish, right?
Mhm.
And he sent me a letter that the mother had sent him, a long letter in English. I don't know if she got it translated, but the translation is quite good. Uh, but she was talking about all of this stuff, the history of what's gone on since basically since Gorbachev. Yeltsin was a drunk. We didn't, and look what he did. And then Putin came to
Mhm.
power, and then the mafia is, the stuff we experienced in Kazakhstan. The old communists
Mhm.
became the new mafia, and then the whole thing about the rich kids, some of whom have never even, they're off going to universities in Switzerland, France. Eh,
Yeah.
They don't even know Russia anymore, and
Mhm.
how this trying to
Mhm.
control Russia, just like you have said. And it's interesting. She brought up or no, it was a news report I saw talked about that group, Wagner Group, the Wagner
Mhm.
Group,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
mercenaries. Did
yeah.
you hear about the tank battle with the K2 battalion
Mm-mm.
and blowing up the
Mhm.
trench? So they were outnumbered by Russians, and this is in this area you're going to talk about today with the kids.
Mhm.
And they ran out of ammunition, and the Russians were in the trench, and the tank ran over the soldiers and buried them alive in the trench. And they were out, and there was only, they dug out one guy that was survived, and now he's a prisoner of war. But this K2 battalion, I guess, has become kind of famous in Ukraine because they're filming. There's a guy that's
Mhm.
filming their fights, and
Mhm.
they've been at it for many months now. So they're seasoned warriors. But
Yeah.
anyway, it's fascinating. But this letter, going back to the letter was interesting because it was from the perspective of someone in Russia who wanted to get out of Russia. But
Yeah.
the one thing she did say that was interesting, she said when she was going, she thought about moving to Ukraine, but she's concerned about the
Mhm.
corruption that's there too. That I suppose there's corruption here. There's corruption in Ukraine. There's probably maybe there's corruption in beautiful Poland. I don't know if there's corrupt. Do they have bribes? Do the police take bribes? I don't
Tim,
know.
it's like us saying we have snow in Poland, but when you talk to Eskimos, Eskimo guys, and you say we have snow and we have snow,
Yeah,
we have corruption and we have corruption. Okay,
right.
we have guns in Poland too, and you have
Yeah,
guns in the States, but
yeah.
we can't compare. It's something else.
Right. But do you have gun control in Poland, or are you like Switzerland? Can you have guns?
No, we can't. It's a gun control. People do have,
Okay.
but they needs to be. It's a full control.
So like England, it's like England.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Or
Okay,
even
okay.
yeah. Mhm.
Do you keep what was that guy that had the narwhal tusk in the back of his car in England, and he took it out and stabbed the guy? Did you hear that story?
No.
Remember that guy? There was a terrorist on the one of the bridges,
Okay.
and they
Oh,
were
yeah,
trying to
yeah,
get
yeah.
him
I
under
remember
control.
that.
And I don't know why, but he had a narwhal,
Yes,
tusk
yes, yes,
in his
yes.
trunk. Who has that in their trunk? And he
Yeah.
stabbed the guy. I mean, that is the craziest story. But anyway, going back to that. But anyway, this family, this letter was
Mhm,
fascinating because it
mhm,
it it confirmed many of the things you've been talking about, but it was also interesting her perspective about just her sadness about not only what's going on in Russia, but what's been going on in
mhm,
Ukraine, and just this general sadness of the whole former Soviet Union, and the structure, and this almost hopelessness of, I don't think it's ever going to get better. I mean, what's going to
mhm,
happen after? These people are going to hate each other even more than they do. And then what? Who's going to help
mhm,
rebuild it? What's it going to look like again? Will it
mhm.
ever rise again to greatness or not? I mean, oh, and it was just sad.
I mean,
Anyway,
I looking at Russia now and international politics and what we say in Europe and how it looks like also from the American perspective. We won't see Russia how it was before. And the European Union, together with Russia, with American politicians, everyone is pushing now. Very, I mean, I probably during the Soviet times at the end, maybe we pushed so much, but I think I haven't seen it ever how much Russia is now pushed down and everything has stopped. and nobody is going to support them from the West in anything. I mean,
Yeah.
you can, you can speak loudly like we will produce our own cars, we will build our own airplanes, we will have our own computers and telephones. But the truth, when you hear that, it's like it's a madness. I mean, nobody in today's world who has some brain, would say words like that,
Hmm.
because it's a global economy. I mean,
Hmm.
how where do they want to go?
Yeah. Well, let me ask you, why do countries like Poland and the Baltics and Hungary and Czech Republic, Slovakia, why are they doing so well, even though they were Soviet dominated? I mean, obviously they're different cultures in different countries, but why do you think they're doing so well while countries like, Belarus,
Mhm.
Russia, uh, you know, I don't know.
Ukraine.
I don't know a lot about Albania. I don't know how Albania is doing,
Mhm.
but though, why do those countries? Why are they suffering more? Or
No, I mean, still the Eastern European countries, which you mentioned, they were part of the Soviet bloc. They are not. They are still working on the democracy. It's not that we are still working, and we have good times and bad times of it, with better governments that understand and politicians, and less. We are still not like some of the Western European countries, in with some issues, and it's economy with businesses, it's moral, it's political, religious. We still carry on our own culture, and we need to learn things. It's no
Mhm.
question about it. But there was a big. We were open much more than the Soviet countries like Belarus, Ukraine, or Russia, or even other republics.
You were more
Uh,
open to the West, connecting with the
Yes,
West.
and
Okay.
and we've had to change some things, and they were
Hmm.
not easy to change.
Hmm.
The style of work is different. The management style is different. The family structure is different after 30 years. We are working on it.
Yeah, but I sent you a video link to a guy that travels by bike, and
Mhm,
some of his best adventures have
mhm,
been his favorite places have been places like Poland, the Baltics, Romania. Even he said Romania's got some beautiful places to ride, and you know how easy it is to find Airbnbs,
mhm,
and then you get there, and hey, there's the key. It's just like here. You get
mhm.
the key, and it's easy, and you can use Google Maps to find it, or you get a SIM card at the airport, and you get the cell
Yeah,
phone working,
yeah.
and
All of
it's
this is
just seamless. It's almost like you can travel seamlessly to the Baltics or France or
yeah.
Vienna, or, and you're going to have a similar experience with lodging through Airbnb and whatever. So, but I don't know if people would feel the same way. Obviously,
Mhm,
not now.
mhm.
If you try to do that in, say, Russia, I
No,
don't
no,
know. I haven't tried
no,
it, but
no, no. You see, with as you said, as simple as SIM cards. Okay, if I get a SIM card in Poland, I can use the same SIM card in every European country
mm,
of European Union, and I use the same, and I pay the same amount of money by calls, which is very useful. And of course, you don't have, although we are separate countries, but still so there are things like that which are very, they show that we are open, and we are open to each other,
hmm,
and we still, we have hard diplomatical talks and cultural differences, and it's not easy for Poles to work in Germany, or German companies work in Poland. I mean, not in
hmm.
a sense hard because we don't allow, but there is cultural, there is history, there are things. But if you are open, you are open.
Now,
And
Are Polish people? Now, don't Polish people have a reputation for being good at construction?
yeah, yeah, a lot of construction.
So
Yeah.
here in America, at least in this part of the United States, people from Mexico,
Hmm.
Nicaragua, Central America, they have a good reputation for being good at construction, very hardworking. They support their families. They send money back to grandpa and grandma back in Mexico, and so their work ethic is really strong. Now, if you go to Canada, Western Canada, it's the Sikh, from India with
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah,
things
yeah.
on their heads.
Of
The
course, we.
Sikh people, I was amazed when I went to visit my friend in Vancouver.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, I don't see any Mexicans working on houses. It's all people from India or Sikh, the Sikh people with the knives on
They
their
are from
sides and
India.
stuff.
Yeah, they are
Yeah,
from
yeah.
India.
So is that the same now, like in England? Do they hire a lot of Polish people for labor, that kind of thing?
It
Or
was for a while before the Brexit. Now it's different because of Brexit. UK is not part of the European Union, so it's not as easy. But we have the same. It's always like Poles go to Germany or other countries to do let's say, this kind of work. We have our construction sites are full of Ukrainians and Belarusians who work there. So
like
it's
in Kazakhstan, it was who
the
were the
Uzbek
Turkish
or
people? Some of the
the
Uzbek, was
Uzbek,
it?
the
Okay.
Tajik, so so this is.
Yeah, or I remember meeting a woman she was a doctor during the
Mhm.
Chechen War. She was a
Yeah,
doctor in Chechnya, and she was selling ice cream on the
yeah,
street. And as
so
an American, you got to remember, in
yeah,
America, if you're a doctor, you're like way
yeah.
up here in how people view you. Oh, you're a doctor. Well, since COVID, people are going, I don't know if we trust the doctors anymore. But
Okay.
back before COVID, if
Mhm.
you were way up here, or a lawyer,
Mhm.
they're a lawyer. Oh, I'm going to send my son to college to be a doctor. He's going to make
Of
gobs of
course,
money.
of course.
But anyway, hey, Zbyszek, I wanted to move on here. So let me just recap what you talked about last time. So last time we did the interview, and you can find this on my
Mhm.
YouTube channel at Villa Scriptura,
Yeah,
or by looking through Facebook. Um, Last time Zbyszek talked about how Russia is importing soldiers. So he talked about the Far East bringing people from Lake Baikal. These people are Asian in appearance. They look like Mongolians. They're very poor, and basically they came to get stuff like boiling water pots, or half of them, you said, because they didn't know how they worked.
they
Um,
didn't take the pots. Yeah,
they did, but
the
they're taking
buses.
stuff. They're happy to get
Mhm.
stuff. It's all about, hey, new refrigerator or something that
Mhm.
works, because they're very
And
poor
having salaries
and
and
having
having
salaries, right?
yeah,
So it's a work thing. It's a employment and material goods. Then you talked
surviving.
about, I'm sorry?
Surviving is just for
Yeah, yeah,
surviving.
sure, sure. Uh, and then the Islamic, the call for holy war, ironically, by the same people who Russia was fighting against back in the
Yeah,
90s
yeah,
viciously, and they were, remember the theater thing where the poisonous gas was pumped into the
yeah.
theater to try to kill them off? Anyway, you look that up. That's an interesting story. And then Spishik also talked about earlier how, well, I won't go into that, but you talked about how some of these things were setups by the Russians, these so-called Islamic terrorist
Mhm.
events. Um, so anyway, so we've got the Chechen leader, I can't remember his name, but he was calling for holy war against those Christians, those West,
Yeah.
the,
Ukrainians.
what now, was he calling for holy war
Kadir.
against the Orthodox Church? Because that would mean Russia would be involved. But how does that work?
He's calling to fight not the church. He's not saying the church. He's going to fight against the European or West turn back to God. So they
Right. So he's appealing to look at what's going, the downfall of
yes,
humanity, the moral
the church
decay.
of the West.
Yeah, the Church of the
Yeah,
West is not like us. We're holy, and
yes, yes, yes,
etc. Okay.
exactly. Mhm.
Um, and then the Wagner Group, which is the private mercenary group, and do they hire people from Africa or just wherever
They
they can find
tried,
them?
but no, they fight in Africa. They do fight in
Okay,
Africa. It's
but
where they mainly earn money. But now they hire the prisoners,
is
and
this a
it's
Russian? Was this company
yes,
started in Russia?
yes, yes.
Okay. Hey,
But it may be interesting. He was the Vladimir Putin cook.
really?
Yeah,
That is interesting.
and they
And he
went
didn't.
into they went together in this business.
Wow.
Yeah,
All these years, and he didn't poison him, huh? Wow, he must really be a friend.
yeah. They must be friends. That's right. Very good. Good point.
Maybe they cooked up some chemicals to put on doorknobs in
Yeah,
England or something.
I don't know, but
So anyway, the Wagner Group, and then Zbyszek mentioned that it wasn't going so well for them, so they're getting prisoners.
mhm.
Right, yeah, and it was interesting yesterday when I was talking to this guy who has a contact with this kid in Russia who's interested in the Civil War. He knew all about the Wagner Group. He's done a lot of research,
Oh,
and so it was very interesting to talk to him, having spoken to
mhm,
you, and he knew about the prisoners and everything. So,
of course.
okay,
Mhm.
well, Spishik, today you're going to talk about children, right?
I wanted to, yeah, to share a little bit of our work, so you also see what we are doing. And we are supporting a group of our friends who work in that frontline area among civilians, mostly about with children. We send stuff for them. We visit them from time to time. The local Ukrainians who run all of this, plus quite international group, individuals who support and organizations, and you will see it at the end of that video. But I like that video because it will show us a little bit how it looks like, but also the issues which I want to talk about. So I thought we just put some parts of the film of the video, and we stop and I explain and we talk about it a little bit.
Okay, so
And
Spishik,
we are
what I'm gonna
going, yeah, we are
go ahead.
going now to the east of Ukraine, and the east of Ukraine, who of course was taken from Ukraine in 2000, 2014, close to Donetsk. Donetsk was very good in. It was a mining city, very wealthy, so wealthy that it was in quite a conflict with Kiev, the capital. It was like east kind of capital of Ukraine, and but it was a difficult. There were hardworking people, but also people who had sometimes problems with the law, and this kind of situation. And they were sent to the east part of Ukraine, where they could a little bit hide, but also work hard and earn some money. And it was taken over. It's called Donbass area, and we go there since last year to help children who run away with their not parents really, but the grandparents, uncles, older brother or sister run away from the front line. Some parents were killed, some were in difficult situation before because it wasn't easy over there. So they run from there and they hide about 50, 60 kilometers. I mean, sorry, about 40 miles from the front line. And we visit them. And we've been working with them for a year now, almost. So let's see how it looks like the towns where they come from first.
Okay, Spishik, I have my. Can you hear me? By the way.
Yes, yes.
Okay, I have my cell phone. It's a little delayed, but
Okay.
what I don't know what you're seeing on the screen right now, but there is a screen I'm seeing.
I see it. Yeah. Mhm.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take myself out of the picture, and you're going to be eventually in a small little box on the
Yeah.
bottom,
Very
and then
good.
I'm going to make the screen big, and then I'm going to
Okay.
play it until the 48-second mark, which is what your first request was. Okay.
Good.
All right,
Great.
here we go.
Thank
So
you.
just Okay, Zbyszek, I stopped where you asked me to.
Mhm. I couldn't hear the song, but
Oh, really? Oh, I could hear it. I could hear it. Did
I,
you demute it or is there a mute
I don't
button
know.
maybe on?
I couldn't hear, but
Okay,
okay.
I will,
Okay. If you can put a little bit more so we can see, maybe it's not necessary, but maybe the text.
okay,
We can
I'm
see
gonna
a
take
little bit.
myself out, or I'll try to make it bigger
But you
here.
can be there if it's
I'm gonna take myself out. It'll make it bigger. Okay.
you need to. Okay. And if we can go a little bit like 2 seconds farther so we can see the text, it will come up if you can make it work. Yeah, it's good. Excellent. Okay. Yeah. Yes. Because at the beginning, we talked, Tim, about the situation of the Soviet Union and, what happened 30 years ago, because we met 30 years ago. But there was a time when we all thought that the new generation, the people who we work with, and we work with students mostly, that they will learn and touch a little bit of the Western lifestyle, and also the they will they will taste it, and they did. I mean, everyone wanted to learn English. Everyone wanted to study abroad or take some courses in new opened universities or colleges run by British, American, Western colleges in their own countries. And I talk here about the former Soviet republics in Russia, Ukraine, Belarus, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, different places where there was a cooperation, and they wanted to learn, how to run their companies. They were taking courses of management, small business. The banks were learning how to work through the loans, and everything. I mean, because it was everything needed to be changed, and they liked that. I mean, everyone loved it to have a new opportunity to get not only to new free market, but just the freedom of the word, the religious freedom, the expression of their thoughts in arts. I mean, amazing. I love those years, 90s and first part of 2000, because everything was so fresh. People were open, and we had all so much, hope for the new generation, that we will work together, that we will be united, that we will give these kids new opportunity, because Soviet Union was very closed. I mean, it was, if you were born as a child in the Soviet Union, the government, the state, had prepared all your growth process, everything. You went through the kindergarten, the school, the college, as they call institute, university, and they gave even work. They gave you place to live. They told you what you need to do, how much money you can earn. They organize your holidays, place where you can rest from work. Everything was planned because they wanted to have control over people, and the children were growing like that. They were There was no religious freedom, so you couldn't go to church, you couldn't feed your spirit. The communism, the propaganda was at schools and the kindergartens, and it's what children were learning about. And then if they were good, communist kind of people with a good ideology, they could go further. They could build their career. You couldn't have a career if you were not connected with Communist Party. So everything was controlled. And then in 1990s, the freedom came. It was, believe me, it was crazy. People didn't know. It's like you left the cage. You could everything, and you could do good for your family, and you could learn things. And you Tim, you experience that,
Hmm.
to be with these people, and how they wanted to learn all of this, and they wanted. I must say one important thing about the Soviet culture: the children were always important for them, and they would do everything for their kids. And it's the thing that I am shocked with this war with Ukraine, that the Russians, the soldiers, the society, they do so much harm to children because it doesn't go together with the Soviet culture. It stands against Soviet culture to fight against children, and I see children who are scared when I go to east of Ukraine. Children that have no place to live because their houses are destroyed, who are separated from parents, who have no school because the schools are closed. Children who have not enough food because even in the areas where Russians conquered, there's not enough humanitarian aid that people have enough food. So children they don't have easy access to food, no health care because the hospitals are destroyed, doctors run away. I mean, and the probably the most difficult is that the children are kidnapped and taken
Hmm.
to Russia, and they are being put through the process of adoption to Russian families.
Now, Zbyszek, I had was listening to a radio program a couple days ago, and I think it was National Public Radio or something, but they were interviewing a woman, and she said at first in the East, Eastern Ukraine, we felt like, oh, kind of like in England when during World War II, remember where all the people sent their children out to the countrysides during the
Mhm.
Blitz when the Germans were bombing London. They
Yeah,
sent their kids out to the countryside to be safe.
yeah,
They kind of were like that. Oh yeah, let's get them out of their harm's way. So we'll send them away to these famous summer camps, and that
yeah,
they had a good feeling about these summer camps.
right.
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
that's a great summer camp or a camp that, but then they learned that they didn't have such easy access to their children, that their children were being propagandized, and actually their children were being taught to turn against Ukraine as a country. And now I'm hearing that they're they're thinking that they're going to eventually get their kids to fight against Ukraine on behalf of the
Mhm.
Russian army. I mean, it's
Yeah.
horrible.
I mean, what I've heard from the people living there, the Ukrainians, the process that they went through was the children kidnapped. One thing was they were taking orphanage buildings over, so they took children out of the orphanage and they took them to Russia to a new orphanage area. Yes, so it was one
Hmm.
way they've done it, but but uh, they were Ukrainian children. It doesn't matter if if it's orphanage or it's. However, I mean, they are citizens of Ukraine, and they should be placed in Ukraine. So if they wanted to help, they should open the humanitarian corridor and let the children be taken by Ukrainian Red Cross or whatever, and placed with Ukrainian families. No, they took
Hmm.
them by force to Russia, and it's crime. Second thing is they did the same with children that handicapped children in a
Hmm.
different way. So they did the same, and then the third thing was they were also moving the families with children to Russia, and now they have problem to go back, and they were taking them by telling that your families, this is the war zone, we will help you to have better situation there. But now it's very difficult for them to go back because they say, you have children and we won't allow you to go there with children
Hmm.
back. So this is all the manipulation, and the fourth thing is what you just shared, that the areas were occupied by Russians, and sometimes they were occupied because they cut the Ukrainian army out, and they entered the city or the area without really fights. Just they, because they get around, they surround the city, so there was no fights in the city, and the Russian army came in, and there are areas like that. So the families, they did not see really the war in a sense. So they come and they say, okay, guys, now the Ukrainians will come and fight back. So we will help your families and your children, and you can send them to the camps because it's a war zone.
Yeah.
And it's what you're saying. And they say they don't worry, they will go there for 2 weeks or 4 weeks.
Hmm.
They will be safe. And it's also, you would need to understand the situation, the background of this conflict. The Ukrainians still in their minds, trust, Russians. You see, because they were brothers, they were friends.
Hmm.
I mean, they, as I try to tell many times, they worked in Russia. They marry, Russians. They crossed these cultural barriers. They went to the same church, because it's a Orthodox church, the same church. How they would look at. They speak the language. So when they come and they say, we are social workers and we will take your children with us to Russian camp, as you say, good camps, and maybe sometimes they went there even summer
Hmm.
times, years before, on cultural exchange, or this kind of stuff. So they went there. They say, okay, maybe it's better, maybe it's true, it will be easier. But what happens then? The children don't come back. And then they say, okay, where are our children? They say, oh, if you want, you can go there and you can pick them up.
Yeah.
And when they cross the border and go then it starts the difficulty.
Yeah.
You see, so it's also the game. It's a real game about it.
It's interesting. Yesterday, I was in doing the Civil War reenacting in Fort Smith, Arkansas, which is, I don't know if you know a lot about our Indian history, Zbyshek, but the American Indians were not treated so well here
Of
in
course,
our
yeah.
country. But the Cherokee Indians, they decided to fight with the Confederacy. They actually owned back black slaves,
Hmm.
the Cherokee Indians. So they sided with the Confederacy. Well, after the Confederacy lost and surrendered, these Indians were like sitting there, and then they were treated even more horribly. Not only were they
Wow.
pushed on along something called the Trail of Tears, and they call it that because a lot of people died. They were moved from places like Georgia, Alabama, and they had to
Hmm.
walk across all the way to Oklahoma, which, was considered that's way out in the hinterlands. That's Siberia. Let's get you away from the areas where the settlers are wanting land.
Hmm.
And so but it's the similar thing that they were kind of thought they were allies of
Hmm.
the white man, but then after things didn't go so well, then back to being treated like crap, and
Yeah.
so, but it's a deception, is
Hmm.
what you're saying. It's a youth. They're called their little brother, as you said last year or last
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. Yeah.
They
Yeah.
consider Ukraine their little brother,
Yeah.
and then they're kind of double crossed in the end.
Yeah, so it's why I talk about children, because you see, the children have a special right, and it's accepted by United Nations, and we all learn about it. Uh, we think that the war and children, we know that it doesn't go together, and the war is, I mean, we try to protect children even more when we talk about the war. Yes, so we take them
Sure.
out from the war zone, we organize for them a special place, or, I mean, because the children need protection, because the war destroys the world. and we know about it. It destroys reality, and the children, they are in the process of learning about the world.
Yeah.
They don't have the right, the adult, not adult, the the stable vision of the world. Yes, you work as a
Yeah.
teacher, you know what's the part of the teacher's
Well,
work.
I was going to say, even now
Yeah.
as a grandfather, I have to be like
Uh-huh.
really careful because sometimes I'll talk about things and my children and my son-in-law, they'll say, uh, Dad, don't please don't talk about that right now because
Hmm.
Winnie or Hugo or
Hmm.
the younger kids especially they don't need to hear about that now. There's
Okay.
that desire,
Yeah.
natural desire. Can we just keep them innocent for as long as possible,
Yeah.
please?
Okay.
Can
Good.
Don't they deserve a little time of innocence, please? And yes, I'm sorry. I forgot who I was around. I forgot myself there,
Yeah.
and I
Exactly.
have to check my mouth and my thoughts.
So I just want to say, straight and strong, the children of Ukraine, their rights are broken, and their world is broken, and it will be lost generation for sure.
Mm,
And I can see it when we travel there and we visit with these children. And the last time I said that the French TV was calling us and asking, is it true that from this area where you could see the film, the Donbass area, that children are evacuated by force by Ukrainians because some parents, they don't want to leave the area. They want to stay in their houses for any reason. But the Ukrainian government decided that even if parents stay there, we need to evacuate children because if
mm,
not, we can't save them from what will happen. And they have the rights, you see. And I
sure.
like that. I
And that's
like that.
this list that says life, identity, development, growing up in a
Yeah.
family, freedom of thoughts, information, good living conditions, healthcare, rest, and education. And that I can't read the bottom, but
Convention
it's
of the rights of the children of the.
yes. And so yes, and I think most people in their right mind would agree that of course they have. I was thinking about Schindler's List when as you were talking.
Hmm.
Have you seen that movie?
Yeah, of course. Yes.
Do you remember the scene where the train is going? I think it's going to
Yeah.
Auschwitz,
Yeah.
and the little boy, he's only about
Mm,
5 or 6, and he's standing with a heavy coat in the snow, and he's looking up at the Jews in the train
mm,
car, and he knows where they're going, and he goes like this,
mm-hmm.
like,
Yeah,
"You're dead. You're going to death." That is a kid scarred by war,
it is. And
and
I can see
that's what you're talking about.
that's what I'm talking. And because the Russians were saying we will take over Kiev and Ukraine in 3 days, and now it's 15 months, and it's over a year, and these kids are still in the war.
Mhm.
And I mean, they are in the war because they are influenced by the war, very heavily influenced, and I can see it. Even lately, somebody who made it was a Polish woman, wife of the guy who goes there. She made this film. They put this film, the clip together, the video, and she said, "You know what? I have another one like that, which we made about 8 months ago or something. And I can see on this film, when I was putting these things together, they are much more sad than that time."
Oh, that's horrible.
Yeah. And I just thought, oh my goodness, it's true.
Yeah.
It is I mean, they are under such a heavy pressure, and they have these rights, and it's, yeah. So these rights were taken from them. And we talk about about children, how we should protect, and what how we should speak to children and everything, things like that. And I mean, some of them are abused, you know
Mhm.
uh, and they are abused even by the older children, and nobody takes care, and it
Yeah.
does happen.
Well, that's what happens when you remove the parental if the parents' lives
Yeah.
are blown apart, then the children, I mean, what are they left with? There's no boundaries. There's no,
Hmm.
it's like the book Lord of the Flies,
Hmm.
these children. they remove the adults from the equation and they become like animals and kill each other. And
Mhm.
and then ironically, there's a war going on at the
Yeah,
same time. They're on this island with the adults fighting,
yeah,
but they become like the adults. They become, uh,
yeah.
yeah,
They
you,
think they are adults, and they are not. They are just
no,
creatures.
they
They
are,
are
they
not
are.
adults.
So should we
Yeah,
move
go
on
a
to the
little
next
further.
set?
Yeah,
Okay,
please.
now
That's why.
give me a
Mhm.
minute here. I'm going to take myself off and put you back in the little picture
But
here.
try to no, just try to go with it. Three of us, maybe will be enough.
Well, the thing is, Zbyszek, is that
You can.
can you hear me, by the way, right now?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay. The thing is you can
Ah,
see.
but you can hear. Okay.
Okay. Did you want to talk about some of the stuff that we just saw?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. I just yeah. What I want to say is, for the last 12 months, I mean even more, but a year, at least a year, these children had not an access to a normal life. And we talk about the war, and is Russia doing right or not right, and all of this, what Ukraine should do, and other things. But there are lives of these little ones, and they are in a very big problem today. And one story, one of these guys who go there, this Polish guy, told me that they came and they shared goods with them, and they started to talk about evacuation and then taking kids with them to the west part of the Ukraine. But the parents don't agree with it. Many of these parents are already in a very bad shape mentally because they are also exhausted with this time. And a little girl came to him, 9 years old maybe, and she said, "Could you adopt me
Hmm.
so I can go with you and be in a different place?"
Now, did this child did she know her parents were still
Yeah,
alive, or
yeah,
so even though her parents were
yeah.
alive,
Because she wanted to be away. Yeah.
she would rather leave the chaos
Hmm.
of her parents' lives and live with
Yeah,
a stranger
yeah,
in Poland
yes. Because
than
they
be
talk
home.
to each other. These children also talk to each other, and they
Mm,
make plans,
mm,
and they knew that they can't leave the place if parents don't want to leave.
mhm,
So she came up with an idea that if somebody takes her and adopts, then she will have a different life. And the
mhm.
problem with some of these parents today, after a year, is that some are, drunk and drunk all the time. Some are using drugs because they can't cope with
Yeah,
reality.
they're overwhelmed.
Yeah, and the alcohol always was problem in the Soviet times and
Mm,
countries.
mhm,
So now it's just the only medicine that they have for their
mhm.
situation.
Are they making their own vodkas out of potatoes and things
They
like that? What
drink
are they do?
whatever. Yeah, they
They
drink
I mean,
whatever
and
they can.
now tell me, I remember even in Kazakhstan that sometimes people would make their
Yeah,
own stuff, but it would be like bad, like poison bad, like
if they
because they
don't know how to do it, yeah,
yeah, and it could actually kill them. Just I mean, it's bad enough when you're drinking a high proof vodka, but then when you make something you don't know what you're doing and you could
yeah.
poison yourself. Oh,
Of course, yeah. But even so, even if they don't poison themselves, they drink, and they are
yeah.
drunk, and it's a poison.
Right. And
If you're
then, of
drunk
course,
because you celebrate, it's something else. But if you're drunk
and then that
because
leads to more domestic abuse and child
exactly,
abuse,
and
and it's
it's
just
the
a bad
thing,
cycle.
and we are working on it that we need also to help these children. We hope to bring some doctors as well and check them if there is an abuse. But
Mhm.
you see, it's not easy because if you find that there is, what do you do?
Right. I would imagine, here when I was a teacher, I had to go through training every year at the beginning of the year to
Hmm.
detect, because I was called a mandatory reporter, which means I was
Hmm.
under obligation if I saw bruising or
Yeah.
cigarette burns or whatever. If I saw any sign of abuse or even emotional, even neglect,
Hmm.
I was beholden. I had legally to report it. And
Yeah.
I remember having to do it once. It was really hard, but I had to do it, and, this kid was being neglected, and I knew it, and, he was being left home alone before he should have been, and, and I can think of another time where we saw bruising on a little girl, and, the parents of, "Oh, she falls down all the time," they had some kind of reason for it, uh, this is how it is, but I would think in the former Soviet Union, I don't know if they told teachers to do that or not. I kinda guess not.
Now,
Did they?
these times, I mean, if it's in a former school, it's much more difficult. They work on that. I'm not saying that
Mm,
not. It's
mm,
much more knowledge about it, and it's good.
mhm,
But in
mhm.
this situation, they don't go even to school.
Yeah, well, and
They
there's so
don't.
much chaos going on
Everything
to
happens. Everything happens in the
yeah,
home, and
yeah.
uh, and it's so you have children who this year went through that, and there is no hope for the next year that it will change. Not much. So, okay, let's go further a little bit.
Okay, give me just a second. I'm gonna
Yeah, no
turn my
problem. Mhm.
Okay, sorry about that. It started over again because I went to a different window, but I think that's
Yeah,
okay because
good.
it's a short video and people probably needed to
Yeah,
see
yeah, yeah.
that beginning part anyway. But did you want to say a few things I saw Boris? You mentioned Boris. Is he the one
Hmm.
running that little
Yeah, 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 yeah.
place there?
Yes, yes, yes. I wanted to. No, I just want to say that they are just people who help in these areas with these children, and I would say it's always like that. It's not big organizations, you see. And I find it everywhere I go, there is somebody, there is a person who has heart for the, for a group of people, and they do best job ever, because they are, and it's what I like, because they are big organizations, and organizations who help children. I'm not saying they don't, and they send goods and other, all of this, all of this, all of that. But then at the end of this, story is a man, a person, a family who takes care of the group of children. And this Boris and his wife and his friends, they open their house, they open their church, and the children come there and they feel safe. And
That's
it's
wonderful.
wherever I go,
Mm,
when I was in Biestwan was like that. When I visited Eric and Heather in Afghanistan was like that. There are some people who need to open their hearts, and I say get involved personally. And
yes.
yeah, and
That my whole heart for this area of the world started in a very small way. Back in night after Chernobyl, there
mm,
was a family that got in contact with our church or something in Oregon, and they wanted to come to the United States, and they had like 3 or 4 kids, and they're from Ukraine, and he had worked at Chernobyl
mhm.
sweeping. I think he was a janitor, or he
Ah,
was
yeah,
forced he was forced to clean up.
yeah,
They came to Oregon, and at our church they said, "Can anyone let them stay at their house?" And I raised my hand, and I said, "I will." And we didn't know hardly any Russian. I don't even know if we were thinking about Kazakhstan. We may have been thinking about Kazakhstan. So I
mhm,
thought, hey, maybe this would be a chance for me to learn a little language,
mhm,
or practice some language. I didn't know a whole lot. So
yeah,
they came, and it was hard because we just did sign language and things like that. But we fed them, and the Lysenkos, that was their name, the
mhm,
Lysenkos. And they eventually moved to a little house in Vancouver across the river, and
mhm,
we stayed in contact with them. And the man who had worked at Chernobyl was exposed to radiation, and he was
mm,
getting medical treatment for cancer.
mm,
And he eventually died. When we moved to Kazakhstan, we found out he died.
mm.
And I think I told you this, he made a
Yeah,
big
yeah, yeah.
cathedral out of matchsticks. It was
Mhm,
beautiful. It was
mhm,
it was like a work of art. It was
mhm.
beautiful. It was like 3 stories high. It was like a cathedral, like an Orthodox
Wow.
cathedral. It was beautiful. And he did it out of love, out of appreciation for what us just opening up our home. It's the heart of
Yeah.
people in that region. And the woman eventually became a
Mhm,
widow, and she had some brothers who did car
mhm.
auctions. That's how they made money. They
Yeah,
went to
yeah.
car
Mhm,
auctions and made money. And she was taking care, and she was learning English, and the brothers were learning English, and we could communicate more and more. This is after we came back from Kazakhstan.
yeah.
We
Mhm,
went to visit them, and they were raising rabbits in their backyard for meat. That's how they were eating meat. They were raising rabbits in the backyard, and which is fine. I
mhm,
like rabbit, actually.
mhm,
I've been
mhm.
to French restaurants so when they serve rabbit, or
Okay.
Hassenpfeffer, as Bugs
Yeah.
Bunny would. Anyway, uh, but Zbyszek, that little experience, that personal
Yeah,
experience, it's
exactly.
what changed my heart. It was my first time knowing someone from the former Soviet Union,
Mhm,
and they were so kind, and they wanted to stay in contact with us. They wanted us to help them with their car auction business, and they were just so sweet. And then I visited, I got to know some Romanians,
mhm,
and I went to a Romanian church. I went to a Romanian
mhm.
wedding, and I started having a heart for the people of Eastern Europe and the former Soviet Union. And then, of course, Portland exploded with tons of immigrants from that region of the world.
Mm.
I got to know I know a guy who's a software engineer, and I went to church with some
Mhm.
Romanians, and they did dancing at the church. They did
Yeah,
Romanian
yeah,
dancing,
yeah,
which was
yeah.
new. I didn't see people dancing in a church before. That's kind of cool, with ribbons and
Woo!
banners. Anyway,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
it was wild. But anyway, go ahead and say what you're saying. I'm just telling you that you're right. you make that
Mhm.
personal connection, and it
Mhm.
changes everything, you know?
Mhm. No, so no, we can go further, and I would ask you to go to 2 minutes and 44
Okay.
seconds if you can, and there is also so we can watch it. Mhm.
Okay, that's 244. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, I
Yeah,
can.
so that's 244. It's a little delayed. It might be a little delayed on your end, so
Yeah, it will show up. Okay.
okay. So
All
there's
right,
a
but
there's a banner that says "The War" on it right now that I'm looking at. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And it says, about how many children have died and all of these things, and it's okay. This information, but what's important in here is that that area that we where we go is very touched by the war, and I mean the children. It's very difficult for us to understand, but these children they do live in a war, and they wake up in the war. And I remember some of the villages we visited, and they are totally destroyed because of the war. But the Ukrainian army came back and liberated the area, and these families they come back, and and we know how it is with the childhood. You come back. I mean, you remember your home or you remember your area, and the children they keep peaceful, or their life is very difficult because of the childhood memories. And I look at it at those villages. I walk through the streets and I see destroyed houses, and I feel what will they remember about their childhood? How will what decisions will they make when they are adults because of that? uh, and how they hide because they hear the explosions, and they hide because they hear the airplane coming. uh, and so I think about the future, but also what I think about is some of these families they try to come back to their homes because they've been away from their homes for 6 months, 8 months, and now there is not. I mean, the area is liberated, so they can come back. And I visited some of these families. Mostly are just women with a child or grandparents with a child. They come back. The house is destroyed. They try to rebuild it if it's possible. So they rebuild it. But believe me, in all of this street, all other houses are destroyed. So these children they wake up and they go outside. Maybe they sleep in their home, maybe it's safe now, but they go outside and what do they see? They see destroyed houses. And it must have a terrible influence on them. And we all think, what should we do? Should we take these children away from there? There are a lot of areas in the west of Ukraine now. I wouldn't say camps, they are like refugee. They look much better than camps. Okay, they are not camps. There are houses built, kind of like summer houses. They are hostels, some schools, hotels that are changed into the living areas for families, and it's good. And a lot of these families they move to the west part of Ukraine, and they find a peaceful place. But not all of them want to go, and not all of the children will go there. And we try to help them, but with our experiences with these children, there are not many that want to leave, that want to go. And we try to help them, although they are in this situation. And I'm very thankful for the team who works there, that although these children they are influenced by the war every day, they go there and they spend time with them and they try to minimize the effects of the war. And I think like every month we can hear about a family who leaves and goes to the west of the Ukraine because they're convinced that there is a different life. And it's part of our job is also to be there with these families and encourage them and explain and always give an opportunity to go to the safe place. So I share that because, when we think about the war or humanitarian work, we don't know about these details, sort of. We don't think that it's so focused, so details, the personal relationships with families and children are so important.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not that you put children through the program because there are programs and there are even the government, state, the Ukrainians, organizations, international, they organize evacuation. They find the new places, and believe me, somebody needs to knock to the house, to the door, and the family opens, and you need to make a good impression because if not, they won't sit in your car and go.
Hmm. Hmm.
I thought without this, I mean, I've never done it before. This is the first time in my life. I've done other humanitarian work, but I've never done this kind of also evacuation work. But what I hear and learn by being with this group and some others which I visit with, I've learned that you need to convince people to leave the war zone
Yeah.
because they are not able, they are already lost in their participation of the reality. They don't understand how dangerous it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
Well, and
it's
they know, they know about, prostitution and trafficking, and they
yeah,
know, they don't trust. I mean, how can you entirely trust even a humanitarian worker because they might be a trafficker? You don't know. They,
but it's
there's
not that
all,
they are afraid. No, Tim, it's not that, and it's strange for me. This is not that they think will it be better or not. There is this. There is it's like you know you walk on the street or you drive and you see an accident and you may be freezed and you may not help because you freeze. It's so
hmm,
terrible. You don't know what to do. You know that you should, and you
you're
can't.
traumatized.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think some of these children and their families, they are. You need like wake up them, But it's
Yeah.
not by telling them, guys, this is dangerous. They know it's dangerous.
Well, I think I shared with you that I dealt with some anxiety issues the last couple of
Yeah,
years, and I know one of the symptoms of that is that you just stop doing the things that you normally were doing
yeah.
before. Like I used to ride my bike 20 miles a day, and when I was going through anxiety, I didn't even
You
want to
couldn't.
touch my bicycle. It
Terrible.
was like, yeah, it was like a frozen, or I had to
Hmm.
deal with some financial things and call the
Hmm.
health insurance company. I didn't even want to pick up the phone. I was afraid to talk to people on the
Hmm.
phone. It was the weirdest thing.
Hmm.
Um, and now it's like, what was I thinking? What was I worried about? Or you know,
Hmm. Exactly.
we were talking about Arkansas, and then
Yeah.
all I could do was I learned about all the poisonous snakes here and
Hmm.
the ticks, that they have here.
Hmm.
And I was obsessing. Sabrina, I can't move there. There's ticks
Exactly.
and chiggers
Yeah.
and
Very good.
copperheads, and
Yeah.
they're gonna bite me.
It's a good example. And it's the same what they say. You say, okay, we have this place for the children, and there is school, and there is food you receive, and they say, oh, but we can't take our bed. No, we can't. Oh, we can't
Mm,
go. You know,
mm. They're
or
trying to hold on to
yeah,
something that's
yeah.
like a comfort thing.
And it's almost like you convince them, and then they say, oh, but our neighbors are going. No, they are. Oh, no, no, we can't go.
Yeah, that's like me with the ocean. I can't move from
Yeah,
Oregon.
yeah,
There's no ocean in Arkansas. I have to
yeah,
have an ocean.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So it does happen with them, and the problem is that if it takes longer, then it's more difficult. to get
Yeah.
them out of that. So there are a lot of children and their families, or children. Let's talk about children, because very often they are not full families, but they are trapped. They are already trapped over there.
Mm.
And it takes a lot of time and work. And what we do is you need to build trust with them and their families. And at the beginning, months ago, the parents didn't want children to go when they knew that foreigners are there.
Yeah.
And we were bringing goods, goods that they needed,
Hmm.
clothes,
Hmm.
food, medicine, and they did not allow children to go. But
Well,
it
and
took,
that's why the Dutch organization that you talked about is so organizations like that are so important, because you're not just dumping a bunch of stuff,
yeah,
boxes somewhere.
no,
You're making personal contact so
yeah,
that you can go back there. Oh, it's Zbyszek. We know
yeah,
Zbyszek.
exactly,
Or
yeah,
it's, Boris. We know Boris.
exactly,
Or Hovar. We know Hovar.
yeah,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We trust those guys.
hmm
So you can see the importance of traveling
hmm
in and out, like you do, what, every 6 weeks, you said?
yeah, yeah, yeah. We
So
do
you're
that,
in
and
every 6 weeks or so. You're putting your life on the line, going to the dangerous areas, and we
yeah,
will we keep praying for Grandpa Zbyszek, because
yeah,
he's got to
it's
return to
good.
his grandson,
No, it's
and
good.
so that's so
But
important.
that's, you see, and also what's important, we go back there where the local Ukrainians are daily with these people. And this time I am now in Poland. The group that goes there went there, and we will go there probably at the end of next month, May. But because we need to do some other things here with fundraising and other things,
Yeah.
but also, but we send them the teddy bears. They ask us, could you send us 15 teddy bears?
Teddy bears. Okay.
Yes, but what teddy bears, which were, they are kind of like handmade teddy bears that have
Mm.
the recording in their tummies, that you record the voice, your own voice there. So they want to record the voice of their relatives, these children relatives.
Oh, that's so sweet.
So when they go to bed, they can listen to their grandma or somebody. And it's another way of bringing calm, and also telling, maybe you go evacuate, but your grandma will talk to you every night.
Wow,
And
that's a
they'll,
great idea.
yeah, so they push and they can listen,
Wow.
the stories, and or the sounds and other things.
Zbyszek, what you just said, when people hear that, I know they're gonna
Mhm.
be asking me,
Mm,
how can I support something like that? Is there a
mm,
way that we can figure out? Now, I've told people on my, when I
mm,
post this, if you want to support Zbyszek,
yeah.
we're gonna figure out a way, and
We
I
will
just tell
figure
them to
out.
email me.
Yeah.
So, will
We'll
there
do
be
it
a
this week.
way?
We will
Okay,
do it
will
this week.
will there be
Let's.
a way that people can give
Yes, of
money
course.
to help with the teddy bear thing? Because I think that'd be a
Yeah,
great thing
we
to
will
give
find.
to.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for saying
Okay.
that. But it's what I say, that this work, although it's a war, the solutions are the same like in a peaceful time. I mean, like
Mhm.
when you were a teacher, you needed to find a way to every child,
Mhm.
and it's only the way to save the life. It's that you find a way, and of course, many of them you can copy and paste. Like we sent
Sure.
15 teddy bears. We did not say 30, because they say, we know about 15 children. They need that for
Okay.
sure.
Yeah.
So I like that also with these guys who live there and work, that they don't say like, give us whatever you want. And they tell us,
Well, and the teddy bear with the relative's voice, that's a
yeah,
very personal gift. I mean,
yeah,
because not only are you making the teddy bear, but you've got to find the relative and match
yes,
that relative with the kid.
yes, 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 exactly. So it's what we do, and we were sending batteries a few months ago, because they brought them the flashlights, that they have some light
Oh,
at nights, and go
right,
to bed, that they,
right.
with children, they like to have lights, and
You
there's
know,
no electricity. So we do
before I
that.
forget, what would happen? REI has a store that sells outdoor equipment here. I don't know if you know about it, but they
Mhm.
have a solar. I have
Yeah,
one. It's a solar lantern,
yeah,
and
it's a good,
during the day,
yeah,
it's made
very
out
good.
of plastic. It's inflatable. You blow it up, like,
Yeah, yeah,
and it's
yeah,
about this big. It's about as big as this coffee cup,
yeah,
and you hang it on your tent, and it's got a
yeah.
solar. So why? what
We
about
bring
something like
stuff like
that?
that.
It
Yeah,
would
we do. We
yeah, like a
connect and we
solar
bring.
thing, then you don't have to worry about
Yeah.
batteries.
Very
You just
good. Very good. Yeah,
need
yeah, yeah.
sunshine.
We do stuff like that. Yeah, we try
Okay.
to find, and yes, we have some things, different things. But what I want to say, when we think, even if when I thought, the war, and we want to help the war, and of course, we fill up. Even with filling up this stuff, I teach these guys from these Dutch organizations. It would be good to send trucks, full of, stuff. But I say, guys, we go there with a van, but in this van, we know what we have and we know what people need. And when we go there, we give it to hands of these people because we know that these people need that and it will help them. And I have nothing against to big organizations and small organizations who send vans and kilograms, tons of stuff. But we are specific, and but we also want to give to. We want to do it for a long time and also help with the needs that they have because they will help best.
Mhm.
And it's why, we send teddy bears, we send boots where we know they need boots. Now we ask them what do they need during the summertime, and we
Yeah, I
say,
just want to
well,
interrupt Zbyszek a minute and just
yeah,
say one of the things if you didn't hear a previous couple of interviews ago, Zbyszek mentioned that not only are they providing shoes, boots, but they're showing the children like a website and
yeah,
they can pick
yeah,
the tennis shoes that they want. And we were talking last time about how that honors the person. It's fine to give shoes,
of course, yeah,
but think about if you're a kid and oh, those are cool looking shoes. I like the black ones. I like the white ones. I like the red ones with the stripe.
mhm,
In the midst of chaos and horror,
exactly,
it gives you that little
yeah,
sense of I'm in control.
and attention, yeah,
I'm in control
ah,
and
this is,
attention and honor. Like you're so important to me that I'm gonna let you
yeah,
choose the shoes you want. I
yeah.
mean, that is a great idea.
Yeah, so we try to use this because we know that it also helps them with their stability, with their. I mean, we are saving the world a little bit because in a
Mhm.
wartime, it's easy for parents to say no. You can't have sweets because it's a war. You
Right,
know you can we have no light because there's war. But
right.
in by this, there's not excuses but explanations. You are really destroying the world. They are
Yeah.
learning, it's a war. I have no access to this. I have no access to that. You don't go to school. Why? Because it's a war.
It's like during World War II when they had to do rationing and the women got excited when they could get nylon stockings for their legs,
Mhm.
because
Yeah,
yay,
little things.
nylons, woohoo,
Yeah,
sugar, woohoo. My grandmother used to
exactly.
tell me how they couldn't
Mhm.
have sugar all the time
Yeah,
because
no,
they had
it's
to
true.
ration.
So it's what we try to do. So as long as we can, and as little as we can, we try to make this therapy. I mean, to save their world that they remember still.
Yeah.
But the time is not good for that. So we will finish probably, but
Okay, let's finish this one because it's about
exactly.
7:11, so I'm just gonna play
Yeah,
the whole thing through and then
please.
you can
Yeah,
make any
and we'll finish. Yeah,
final comments. Okay, here we
excellent,
go. Just
excellent.
give me a second.
Yeah, just stop at the end. Mhm.
Did you see that quote, by Father so and so? I can't remember his
Mhm,
name. That was a powerful quote. I don't know if you
mhm,
have the ability to if you wrote that down somewhere, or I don't know if I can get to it.
mhm.
But anyway, maybe I'll post it again on my Facebook
Yeah,
because
post it later.
it's
Yeah,
a it's a it's a very thought provoking quote,
yeah,
about
yeah.
how you can rationalize. And I see people doing this when I talk
Of
to them
course,
sometimes.
always.
Well,
Mhm,
there's a lot of corruption in Ukraine. Oh, Nazis. Oh, neo Nazis. Oh, they sided with the Nazis in World War II. And
mhm.
it's really clear to me that people have been, the propaganda is powerful even over here, because people are trying to just like during World War II. Well, that war is a long
Mm,
ways away. I don't know.
mhm,
We shouldn't get involved with World
mhm.
War One. That was bad enough. We don't want to get involved in another
Yeah.
war. It's just too much.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. I mean, there's only so much we can't do everything, but we can do
Mm.
something. We can.
No, we
I
can do,
mean,
yeah. And this something is it's a lot. The truth is, it's a lot. Because in the wartime, and when I see people need really yeah, basic things, which are, of course, material things. They need money, of course, basics for food.
right.
But they also need basics like, basic time for talking to somebody. I see, for example, we have some stuff with us. We come with a van, we have some stuff. We visit the village, we talk, we walk around. And first we come and people come and say, okay, what do you have? Kind of, what have you brought? And sometimes we just, empty the van and give it to people. But sometimes we say, yeah, we have different things, but, tell us your story, show us. And we go from house to house and we spend a day with maybe 5 families. And they tell us the stories. We drink their tea, they bring their biscuits, and it's destroyed house, but they share, they guest, they have their guests. And very often I think you can imagine it, but it's why I'm telling this story. We have the full van and we come, but we say, okay, let's talk and spend some time. And very often they tell us their stories and everything, and we share time and we have good time together. And we say, okay, so would you like, rice and food and something like that? And they say, no, no, thank you for being with us. Give it to somebody who needs it.
Oh. Hmm. Hmm.
And I tell you why. Because the biggest need that they had was met
Mhm.
because we spent time with them.
Yeah, yeah.
And they felt so good that they felt like, okay, this goods, rice, and everything is not as important anymore.
You know what I think? I think it's because they realize we're not forgotten.
Yeah,
People know.
yeah.
People know about us. And these people who came from Eastern Europe or Western Europe, they're they're symbolizing the fact that we're not forgotten. The world has not forgotten us,
Hmm.
and the world's behind us, and the world knows we're not the problem.
Hmm.
We didn't bring start this war.
No,
We
of
got
course, no.
invaded. They're taking our territory from
Hmm.
us, or
No,
trying to.
but they also, you see, first they fight, and even if they are, I mean, about these people who come for goods and for because they need help, they come to fight for themselves. Even with the volunteers, what will I get? As much as I can, because there is no relationship, there is
Mhm,
no contact, there is no trust. So I come, I get and I hide in my house. Yeah?
mhm,
But when you start to talk to them, when you show some empathy, when you get personal, when you hear their stories, you tell your stories, they see connection. They feel like, wow, I am among men, I am among people,
mhm.
and it's what they need. And I
Yeah.
remember a salesperson. She was selling fish, and we had those stoves that you can warm up yourself outside
Mhm,
just by
mhm.
putting wood. And
Yeah.
so we stopped the car because we saw her standing. It was freezing outside, and she was selling fish. So we stopped, and I took this stove out of the van, and I said, "Okay, like, you could use this thing. You just stand next to it, and you sell your fish, and you can warm up." And she said, "Can I have another one?"
Mhm.
And I said, "Yeah, but we are going to other houses." And she, "Oh, I have also neighbors, and so could I have another one?" And during, talking through, and I was also showing her how to do it, and why she can use it. And she said, "You know what? At the end, she says, you know what? Just one is enough for me."
Oh, huh.
And I understood if I took, two or five, she would take 10,
Yeah,
because
sure.
it was just an item. It was just a thing. But
Yeah.
when I started to have relationship, she started to see that it's not about things. It's about human helping human.
Well, and she may have been inspired by your generosity in
Yeah,
coming. Maybe she felt like, "You know what?
yeah,
It sounds like her conscience was pricked,
yeah,
Maybe
exactly.
wait a minute, I only need 1. Now can you cook with these stoves? If they're not
Yeah,
just for warming? Okay. I
yeah,
think I think I know that, yeah, the type you put the little bits of wood in and then it
yeah,
because it's
exactly.
so
That's what.
close,
Yeah.
it burns, the
And she
combustion is
started
really
to
strong.
think about how warm it can be and how
Yeah.
helpful, and she felt like, yeah, so what I want to say, because you said, people have all these excuses and everything, and I think that the most important with everyone, and it's why we do it, we come back from there, and I talk to you, I share with others, I was on the radio, I write emails, I contact by WhatsApp, I call people, I meet, I eat dinners with them, and I tell. And when we get these stories out to people personally, they say, maybe I could do something as well.
Mhm. Well,
You
the teddy
know?
bear thing, I was listening to
Yeah,
that thinking, "Oh, I know
yeah,
so many people," once they hear the thing about the teddy bear, about
yeah.
your personalized
And I
relative
think,
or
and
grandma.
I think it's good, and I think it's right, because we get so much information about terrible things and how we can get involved and everything. But when we hear and see that we as a person can help another person, then it's a different thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just sometimes you get overwhelmed, like compassion
yeah,
fatigue, and you think,
yeah,
"There's so many bad things going on in the world. I might as well just crawl in my little world and stay
yeah,
in my bubble
exactly.
because it's just too overwhelming."
It is, and
And
it's true.
it
It is.
is overwhelming. It's
Mhm,
Paul in the Galatians calls this present
mhm,
evil age.
mhm,
There is an age to come when Jesus will be sitting on the throne as king, but
mm,
while we're waiting, it's this
mm.
present evil
Yeah, not
age,
easy.
and it
Mhm.
was a present evil age when he lived in it. Look at the way the
Yeah,
Romans,
yeah,
Nero, dipped Christians in wax and
yeah.
burned them for entertainment in his garden, or feeding
Shocking.
Christians to the lions, or the wars that went on between Protestants and Catholics in the Middle Ages, and just horrible stuff. What I witnessed when I went this weekend and thought
Mhm,
about the Cherokee Indians, and just the way that they were lied to about land and their
mhm.
land being taken, and, "Oh, we'll promise you this." "Oh, no." "Oh, we found oil in Oklahoma."
Yeah,
Well, maybe we'll move you somewhere else," So, I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
it,
yeah, of
it's the
course.
human beings have been
Yeah.
treating human beings horribly, and I learned this on my bicycle rides, most
Mhm.
people that you meet, there's a lot of good people out
Of
there.
course. Exactly.
There's a lot of good people
Oh,
who
yeah.
won't steal from you. They won't kill you. They just wanna
Mhm,
talk. They'll
mhm,
talk to you. "Oh, you're going on a bike ride? I've always wanted to do that. Oh,
mhm,
when I was a kid, I dreamed of riding my bike to Mexico or going from Alaska to Mexico on my bicycle. Oh, I wish I could do that." You hear these stories, when you
mhm.
slow down, just slow
Yeah,
down, get out of your car and just slow down, and as a retired person,
you slow
so
down.
and sometimes this drives my wife crazy because I'll go to the store. "Where's Tim?
He's
Tim?
talking.
Where?"
He's
He's
talking.
talking to people. He's
I
talking to
understand.
the lady at Walmart
Interesting.
about something.
Interesting. Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
anyway,
Oh,
Zbyszek,
yeah.
it's been great. Now I just want to
Yeah.
say, first of all, how can we pray for you as you prepare for your next trip?
No, I mean, I hope we meet again before I go, but I just continue. It's for safety and for the things we are doing and for the people, of course, in general, but God knows. how important individual it is as well. But just let's keep it safe. I think it's the most important.
All right. And let's pray
And
that, Putin can either come to his senses or someone can
yeah,
take care of him.
of course.
You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah, yeah. Exactly. I
So
agree.
that'd be my
Totally.
prayer. I mean, I
Yeah.
think it's a biblical prayer. If you read the Psalms,
Yes. To stop it.
David talks
Of
about,
course.
hey, deal with
To
the
stop it.
evildoers, God, please.
Yes.
How long, oh Lord?
Yeah.
How long? Um, and again, you're going to work on a way that we could either do Western
Yes,
Union
I will.
transfer or something.
I hope, Tim, we are able this week to. I will have some more time, and we will figure it
Okay.
out. What's the
Yeah, I
most
mean, it should be
practical?
pretty
Yeah,
simple. I mean, we just have to
I
find
agree.
out a way that either
Okay.
through your local church, you
Okay.
said your
Yeah.
church, but
Yes.
I know that I've transferred money to Kazakhstan. It's very easy, very
Good.
easy.
Very good.
I go to the Walmart, I have the money, and I give them the money, and then they give me a receipt, and then I give the guy in Kazakhstan the number, and he goes to his little
And he
Western
gets it.
Union office and he gets the money. It's easy. I mean, we've done it a few times and it's easy. So there's got to be an easy way to do it.
Of
Let's
course.
just keep it simple. So
Thank
anyway,
you for today, for sure.
thank you for
It
Zbyshek,
was
and
great. Thank
we
you
will
for your
continue
time.
to do this, and
We'll be in touch. Yeah.
we'll be praying for you and your family and your wonderful
you.
new. Tell us the
Yes.
name of your grandchild again.
Tio.
Tio.
Tio. Yeah.
We're going to pray for Tio and for his
Oh,
parents,
thank you.
that
Great.
his parents will be patient
Yeah.
and they'll get a lot of
Yes.
sleep.
Yes. No, these days it's what. Yeah, it's what they are fighting for.
Yes. Okay. Well, you have a
Thank you
great
very
time.
much.
How do you pronounce the city you're in?
Wrocław. I am now in
Wrocław.
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 Yes.
Wrocław.
Yes.
Wrocław. Wrocław. Okay. Now it doesn't look like it sounds. It's WROCLAW,
Yeah.
but we know we have to pronounce it Wrocław.
Yes. Yes.
It
And it's
sounds like a
interesting.
salad.
One day I tell you, it's interesting because this town became Polish only after Second World War. It was a German town.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So this is.
Wrocław. Well, that's what the Germans get.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
You shouldn't have invaded Poland.
I hope Putin will
Don't-
learn that too.
Don't mess with the Polish, man, or they'll take your cities.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right. Okay. Thank you.
All
Tim.
right, Zbyszek, you have a good day.
You too. Thank you.
Okay,
very
so
much.
long. All
Bye.
right. Thanks everybody for joining us. Again, I'll put this on my website. I'm sorry, my YouTube channel, and I'll put it on Facebook. I hope Facebook Live worked today. If not, maybe people found a way to YouTube. It was on YouTube Live, and I've had it on my phone, so I know it's been working. But many of you couldn't get up early in the United States to watch. I know I've got some people in Kazakhstan watching, so that's great. I want to say hello to everyone in Kazakhstan, and hopefully, I know many of you care deeply about what's going on in Ukraine, and some of you can speak English quite well, and others maybe needed some translation help. I don't know if YouTube allows you to put closed captioning down below, but there might be a way for you to click a button and see the Russian translation or maybe even Kazakh translation. I'm impressed with Google Translate and their ability to translate things into Kazakh now. I've got that extension on my Google Translate now. So anyway, I want to greet all of you, our friends who are working on getting the orphanage going on in Taldi Kurgan with Bakat and his wife Shinar, and we want to say hello to all of you, and we keep praying for all of you and hope the best for the orphanage as you work to house those kids who get kicked out of orphanages at 15, 16, 17 and desperately need stability in their lives, just like the kids in Ukraine. So we'll be praying for you all. And if you're listening and you're wondering, what can I do? I really want to do something financially. Stay tuned. As soon as Zbyszek gets this avenue of donations set up through his local church, I think that's the way we're going to go. If you're wondering why I'm not using promoting the Dutch organization, we had some issues with, I sent some money and it got bounced back, and Zbyszek thought there was some international, I don't want to call them shenanigans, but there were some issues when money comes from the United States into a European account. I think there's some oversight going on with, hey, where's that money going? Is it going to the military? Or, but even though I knew it was all going toward humanitarian work, I don't know. There was some stuff going on. There was some reason that the money was getting bounced back. No, there's nothing wrong with the organization, the Dutch organization. It's just that the forces that oversee the transfers, I think, were, at least this was the theory, that there might have been some, I don't know, maybe they were suspicious that, oh, where's that money? The money's coming from the United States into this organization for Ukraine, so we want to make sure it's not going to the military, So anyway, we're sorting that out and making sure that we know all our I's are dotted and our T's are crossed, but we will be getting back to you. Meanwhile, I'm sure there's bigger organizations that you can give to we're reaching out to Ukraine. We're certainly not the only game in town, and I'm just trying to, more than anything, Zbyszek's heart is to just inform people and educate people about what's going on in Ukraine. And I really appreciate that about him, that he comes on a regular basis. He's asking me, hey, can I come on this week? Because he just wants people to know what's really going on in Ukraine. And I think he realizes that there's a lot of propaganda coming from the Russians, trying to, sway public sentiment one way or the other. And I hear it even from people I know, who, yeah, but Ukraine's a bad place with neo-Nazis, and I'm thinking, really? I'm not hearing that from Zbyszek. I mean, I guess you could say there's neo-Nazis in every country. I would suppose even in Russia, I'm sure there's neo everything, neo anything, if you look for it hard enough. And yes, there's a history of alliances and so forth during World War II, and we all know that. But anyway, I'll stop there, and I wish all of you a great Monday, and we'll update you as things come up. So take care and have a wonderful week.